The town of Ravensbrook had always carried a whisper of trepidation among its residents. Nestled between dense forests and jagged hills, it seemed like any other quiet town, until you heard about the cursed creature areas. Stories had circulated for generations, of patches deep within the woods where strange, twisted creatures lurked and locals dared not venture. These weren't ordinary animals. They were remnants of nightmare, twisted and malformed, shadows that moved with malevolent intent. Eleanor and her friends, Marcus and Chloe, had been skeptical of the old tales. Kids on the verge of college, they still loved the thrill of exploring forbidden places. When Eleanor found an ancient map stained with ink smudges and marked with ominous symbols, she knew her curiosity was about to turn dangerous. The map depicted the outskirts of Ravensbrook, highlighting several cursed creature areas, or what the locals called the Bane Zones. Supposedly, strange things happened near these regions. Eerie screams at night, flickering lights, and sightings of creatures that defied natural explanation. One chilly October evening, under the guise of adventure, they decided to explore the largest Bane Zone north of town, known ominously as Blackwood Forest. The sky was cloaked in dark clouds, the moon just a sliver, casting a faint glow over the leaf-strewn ground. They took flashlights and a camera, eager to document their experience. As they stepped into the forest, an unnatural silence settled. No bird calls, no rustling leaves, just a pervasive stillness that made their skin crawl. The trees here grew tangled and blackened, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching toward the sky. Eleanor, clutching the map, led the way deeper in. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, making every breath labored. Shadows danced at the edge of her vision, and faint whispers seemed to ripple through the darkness. She shook it off, accusing herself of imagination. Suddenly, a scream tore through the silence, high-pitched, guttural, and utterly inhuman. Chloe shrieked and dropped her flashlight, which flickered before dying in a flicker of darkness. Marcus's face paled, but he pushed forward. "It's just the wind," he muttered. "Probably an animal." Yet, even he sounded uncertain. They hurried toward the source of the scream, stumbling over roots and fallen branches. As they moved, a strange sensation prickled at their skin, a feeling of being watched. Through the trees, faint shapes emerged. At first, Eleanor thought they were just large animals, but soon their features became disturbingly clear. Twisted, malformed creatures with elongated limbs, hollow eyes, and snarling mouths filled with jagged teeth. Some had fur, others scales or patches of rotten flesh. They moved with unnerving purpose, silent except for the wet scraping of claws against bark. Panic surged through the trio. They turned to run, but the creatures blocked their path, snarling and snapping. A terrifying realization dawned. These weren't natural animals. They were cursed by some dark force flickering in the woods. Tales of cursed creature areas hadn't been just stories. They were warnings, and now Eleanor and her friends were trapped smack in the middle. In desperation, Eleanor remembered the old legend her grandmother used to whisper, that the cursed creatures were bound to the land by an ancient evil, a curse that could only be broken by daring to confront it. Her heart pounding, she yelled back, "We're not afraid of you." Though she didn't believe her own words, her voice echoed with steel. One of the creatures lunged, its claws reaching for her. Eleanor dodged, falling to her knees, heart hammering. Chloe grabbed her hand, pulling her upward. "Run!" Chloe screamed, and the three of them sprinted blindly through the forest, guided solely by the faint moonlight and their desperate hope to escape. Branches tore at their clothes and skin as they fled, the snarls and growls from the creatures echoing behind them. When they burst out from the woods onto the dusty road leading back to Ravensbrook, they didn't stop. They didn't look back. The next morning, they sat trembling in Eleanor's living room, the memory burning like ice in their minds. Eleanor examined the map, which had been torn in the chaos but still showed the boundaries of the cursed zones. But something had changed. Her camera had captured strange smudges and fleeting figures that she couldn't explain. The images seemed alive with malevolence, as if the forest itself was watching them. Over the following days, strange things happened. Chloe's reflection in the mirror appeared distorted, with her face stretching unnaturally. Marcus reported hearing whispers in his headphones even when they were turned off. And Eleanor started noticing shadows flickering at the edge of her vision, creatures creeping just out of sight, lurking in the corners. Eventually, they realized the curse wasn't confined to Blackwood Forest alone. It had spread, infecting parts of the town that bordered the cursed zones. The creatures, once confined to the shadows, now seemed to seep into their very lives, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. Desperate to stop the spread, Eleanor remembered her grandmother's words, that the curse could only be broken by cleansing the source of its power. But the source was unknown, perhaps a dark artifact buried beneath the cursed zones, or a malevolent presence awakening from centuries of slumber. The friends knew they had to face whatever terror lurked at the heart of the cursed creature areas. One night, armed with an ancient talisman Eleanor found in her grandmother's attic, they ventured back into the woods. As they crossed the threshold into the cursed zone, the air grew colder, weightier with dread. The shadows gathered and writhed like living things. The cursed creatures hissed and snarled, their eyes burning with fury. At the center of the zone, beneath a twisted ancient tree, they found a swirling black vortex, a portal of black and crimson energy that pulsed with malevolence. From within, the darkness seeped out, threatening to swallow everything. Eleanor lifted the talisman and whispered an incantation her grandmother once recited. The air shimmered violently, and a blinding light erupted, engulfing the cursed zone in a flash. When it cleared, the creatures had vanished, or so it seemed. The cursed land was no longer blackened and twisted, the trees stood tall and silent. Yet, even as they walked away, Eleanor felt the faintest whisper at the back of her mind, a reminder that some curses never truly die. Sometimes, on quiet nights, she would catch a glimpse of shifting shadows in the corners of her room or hear faint scratching at the windows. And she knew, deep down, that the curse of Ravensbrook's creature areas might never truly be broken. It lingered in the dark, waiting, watching, and one day, it might return. For now, they had escaped, but the nightmare was only sleeping, buried beneath layers of silence and fear. And the forest still whispered of horrors best left untouched.